I stood there in my cap and gown, clutching my diploma and my phone. 37 missed calls from my dad. Not a single one saying, "Congratulations." Instead, "Come home now, your brother needs you." They hadn't shown up to my graduation, the first in our family, because they'd gone skiing in Aspen with my golden boy brother. And now, on the day I achieved what no one thought I could, they wanted me to bail him out of debt. That was the moment I knew. My family didn't just overlook me. They used me. And this time, I wasn't going to let it slide. I'd been dreaming about this day for years, the moment I'd cross that stage, hear my name called, and see my family beaming from the front row. The first Carter to graduate from college. The first to finish what I'd worked and sacrificed for, pulling double shifts at a coffee shop, staying up until 3 a.m., with textbooks and spreadsheets, cutting back on meals, so I could make rent when scholarships didn't cover everything. That morning, I put on my cap and gown with shaky hands. I had reserved the best seats in the auditorium for them, Mom, Dad, and Ethan. I'd even texted a reminder the night before. But as I checked my phone one last time before leaving, a notification lit up in the family group chat. From Mom, "We won't be able to make it today. Something came up. We'll celebrate soon." From Ethan, 30 seconds later, "Aspen for the week. Totally last minute. Can't wait." I stared at the screen. Aspen. Skiing. On my graduation day. It wasn't a mistake. They knew the date. I'd been talking about it for months. I could feel my throat tighten, my chest burning. The betrayal didn't come with shouting or slammed doors. It came in the form of emojis, little pictures of skis and champagne, mocking every late night, every sacrifice. When I arrived on campus, the lawn outside the auditorium was buzzing with families holding flowers, snapping photos, laughing. Friends spotted me, pulled me into group shots. I smiled, I congratulated others. I told myself it didn't matter. But my eyes kept drifting toward the section where they should have been just strangers' faces staring back. My name was called. I walked across the stage, shook hands, smiled for the camera, and that's when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I slipped it out as I stepped off stage. 37 missed calls from Dad. Same text over and over. "Come home immediately." Maynels. "No, proud of you. No. You did it. Just urgency. Demands." When I finally answered, his voice was sharp. "Emily, we've been trying to reach you all day. Ethan's in trouble. He maxed out his credit cards. You need to help him." Help him? I was still holding my diploma in my hand, still standing in my cap and gown, and they wanted me to fix Ethan's mess. I told him I had just graduated, that this was my day. His tone turned impatient. "You're good with money. You've been saving." He wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. It hit me like ice water. This wasn't just family betrayal. This was the truth I'd been avoiding for years. In their eyes, I wasn't the daughter who had achieved something remarkable. I was the backup plan, the safety net. That was the first crack in the illusion that day. A crack that would split wide open into one of the best revenge stories I'd ever lived to tell. After that phone call, I didn't go home. I went back to my tiny apartment, still wearing my cap and gown. The diploma leaned against the wall, unframed, unopened. My phone kept buzzing, more calls from Dad, one from Mom. No one asking how the ceremony went. No one acknowledging it at all. Just the same two words, "Come home." Hours later, Mom finally texted, "Your brother needs you. It's important." There it was again, Ethan's needs, center stage. My achievements, my feelings, buried in the background. This wasn't new. Growing up, if Ethan scraped his knee, the world stopped until he was fine. If I broke a bone in gym class, I was told to walk it off, because Mom was busy. That was the unspoken rule in our family. Ethan's problems were family problems. Mine were just mine. I didn't reply. I ate a bowl of cereal and stared at the wall, thinking about how every milestone of mine had been eclipsed by one of his dramas. High school graduation? Overshadowed by the party he got busted for throwing the night before. First job offer? Forgotten because he crashed his car that same day. But this time felt different. 3 days later, my phone rang again. This time it was my bank. The woman on the line was polite, but her tone carried a warning. "Miss Carter, we wanted to confirm a large transfer request from your account earlier today." My stomach tightened. "Transfer request? I haven't authorized anything." "No." She read the details. $4,800 scheduled to be wired to a joint account in Ethan's name. I froze. "Cancel it immediately." There was a pause. "That's what I thought. The request came from an IP address registered to your parents' home. I didn't need a detective to figure it out." Back in high school, my parents insisted on having my banking login so they could keep an eye on things. I never changed the password because I trusted them. Now I realized that trust was a mistake. Minutes later, a text from Ethan popped up. "Thanks for covering it, sis. I'll pay you back when I can." A winking emoji. Like this was some kind of inside joke. I called Mom immediately. "Did you authorize a transfer from my account?" Silence. Not confusion calculation. "Oh, sweetheart. We knew you'd want to help your brother. He's in a tight spot. And we didn't want to bother you while you were busy with school things." "You stole from me," I said flatly. "Don't be dramatic," she replied, her voice hardening. "We're family. It's not stealing when it's for someone you love." Something inside me shifted then. For years, I'd let this twisted definition of love dictate my role, the helper, the fixer, the safety net. But in that moment, I understood. They didn't see me as family in the same way they saw Ethan. To them, I was a resource. This wasn't just another family betrayal. This was the moment my revenge story began writing itself, not out of anger alone, but from the quiet certainty that I would never let them treat me like this again. After that phone call with Mom, I stopped answering when I saw their names on my screen. The buzzing never stopped. Dad, Mom, Ethan, then my aunts and uncles, even my grandmother. All variations of the same message. "He's your brother. You can't let him fail like this." Not one of them mentioned my graduation. I didn't yell. I didn't defend myself. I didn't explain that my refusal wasn't about the money, it was about years of being invisible unless they needed me. I realized that reacting would only feed the cycle. So I pulled back. I stopped going to Sunday dinners, stopped checking the family group chat. My phone stayed on silent except for unknown numbers, job applications, interview callbacks. I started keeping a small notebook by my bed. At first, it was just for jotting down what had happened since graduation, every call, every text, every manipulation. Then, I began adding memories I'd buried, moments I'd brushed off but that now looked like pieces of a much bigger pattern. Reading it all together was like watching a slow-motion car crash I'd been in my whole life. Meanwhile, my bank account was tight. Graduation expenses, rent, and basic living costs had eaten up most of my savings. The bank had canceled the transfer before it went through, but processing fees and account holds had frozen my funds for days. I skipped meals more often than I liked to admit. My apartment felt colder, emptier, but something was shifting inside me. I landed a part-time research assistant job at a small financial firm. The pay wasn't great, but it covered rent and gave me a foothold. More importantly, my work actually mattered there. When my supervisor, Karen, praised my report writing skills in front of the entire team, I didn't know how to react. I wasn't used to recognition that wasn't immediately followed by a comparison to Ethan. 2 months in, they offered me a full-time position. With the steady paycheck, I began rebuilding my savings. I upgraded my wardrobe with a few professional outfits, joined a coworker for morning runs, started eating better. For the first time in years, I woke up feeling like my life was moving forward without my family's approval or involvement. Then came the social shift. Derek, a colleague, invited me to a networking event for young professionals. I almost said no, imagining fake smiles and shallow conversations. But I went and was surprised to meet people genuinely interested in my skills and ambitions. I swapped contact info, attended industry mixers, and slowly built a network. I didn't post about my progress. I didn't tell mom or dad anything beyond "I'm fine." Every accomplishment became a card I kept face down, waiting for the right moment to flip it. I was no longer surviving. I was building leverage, and that, I knew, was the key to every inspirational story of overcoming adversity I'd ever admired. The quiet preparation before the perfect move. They had no idea I was getting ready. 6 months after graduation, I was walking out of the office on a rainy Tuesday when my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. "Emily Carter? This is Michael Reeves. Karen speaks highly of your work, Derek, too. We could use your expertise on a restructuring project for a boutique hotel chain." I kept my voice steady, but inside, my pulse spiked. This was the kind of break I'd been chasing. The project was high profile, high paying, and an entry point into a network my family couldn't even dream of. I said yes on the spot. The next few weeks were a blur of late nights, endless spreadsheets, and strategy calls. Michael noticed my work quickly. "You're not just good with numbers," he told me one evening over dinner with the team. "You understand how people think. That's rare." I didn't realize it yet, but that connection would soon matter far more than I imagined. Outside of work, I kept updating my notebook. Calls from family had tapered off, replaced with the occasional, "How's work?" from mom. I always gave vague answers. Busy, but good. I knew better than to let them gauge my financial position. Then, at a networking mixer, I overheard a conversation that made me pause. A family friend, a little too tipsy, was talking to someone about a certain golden boy who'd been pitching a luxury sports bar idea around town and failing. I drifted closer without making it obvious. "He's tried 3 banks already. First State, Harborview, Westline all turned him down. The projections don't add up. If he doesn't find someone to co-sign soon, he's sunk. His parents are stressed." "Ethan." I sipped my drink, nodding at something unrelated, but my mind was racing. I could see the pattern forming. They'd package this sports bar idea as a family opportunity, spin it like it was about unity, and then try to guilt me into investing. They'd assume I didn't know the truth. That night, I wrote it all down: every bank rejection, every flaw in the business plan I could glean from overheard comments. I didn't feel rage. I felt ready. Meanwhile, my own life kept climbing. When the hotel project wrapped, Michael pulled me aside. "You ever think about starting your own consulting firm? You've got the skills and I've got contacts who'd hire you tomorrow." Within a month, I'd filed the paperwork. By the end of that quarter, my firm had 2 steady clients and revenue that exceeded my old salary. And I told no one in my family. I knew enough about family betrayal to understand that the less they knew, the less they could target. I was building my own fortress brick by brick, and they thought I was still living in a shack. The best family revenge stories don't happen in a burst of fury. They're built in silence, with patience, until the moment you decide to strike. I didn't know exactly when that would be, but I knew it was coming. The text from Mom arrived on a Thursday. "We'd love to see you." Dinner Sunday? No birthdays, no holidays, no specific reason. My gut told me exactly what this was: the setup. When I walked into my parents' house that evening, the air felt staged. The smell of roast chicken drifted from the kitchen, but the living room was arranged like a boardroom. Dad in his recliner, hands clasped. Ethan on the couch, leaning back like a man about to close a deal. We went through the hollow greetings, then Mom set a glass of water in front of me and smiled too brightly. "There's something exciting we want to share. A family opportunity. Here it comes." Ethan launched into his pitch with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no in his life. He had printed brochures, a laptop slideshow, even mock-up designs for the locker room, his luxury spore bar concept, high-end decor, signature cocktails, exclusive brewery partnerships. Phrases like ground floor opportunity and guaranteed returns rolled off his tongue. When he finished, Mom leaned forward, hands clasped in anticipation. We've got some investor interest, but we'd love to keep it in the family. We thought you could come in as a primary backer. It would be such a great way to bond. I kept my voice even. And how much are we talking about? Ethan didn't flinch. 150,000 to start. You'd own 30%. I let the silence stretch before I spoke again. Interesting. Just curious, have you told your investors about the 3 loan rejections? The room froze. Ethan's smile faltered. What? I leaned back almost casually. First State, Harborview, Westline, all passed because your projections don't add up. I'd hate for anyone to feel like they didn't have the full picture. Mom's eyes darted to Dad. Dad's jaw tightened. Ethan's voice sharpened. Where are you getting this? I shrugged. People talk, especially in business circles. And I happen to run in a few now. Dad tried to recover. Emily, this is your brother's dream. You're in a good position now. You could really help. That was my cue. I reached into my bag and pulled out a sleek, bound portfolio, my firm's contracts, revenue projections, and client list. I slid it across the coffee table. You're right. I am in a good position. Good enough to know this isn't an investment. It's a bailout. Ethan's face turned red. Mom opened her mouth, but I cut her off. And I don't invest in people who steal from me. Yes, I know exactly who tried to pull $4,800 from my account after graduation. No. No one spoke. I stood, tucking the portfolio back into my bag. From now on, I'm not your safety net. I'm not your ATM. I'm not your fallback plan. Whatever hole you've dug, you can climb out of it yourselves. At the door, I turned back one last time. Oh, and Michael Reeves? He's a friend now. His company owns 3 of the busiest bars in the city. You can guess how your pitch will go if it crosses his desk. I left to the sound of rain on the driveway, feeling the first real weight of my revenge story falling into place. It didn't take long for the ripples from that Sunday dinner to hit the shore. 2 weeks later, I got a text from an old neighbor. Saw your brother at the bank, he looked furious. Something happen? That same afternoon, an email popped up from Michael Reeves. Subject line, FYI, Ethan Carter proposal. My gut told me everything before I even opened it. Inside, Michael had forwarded me Ethan's business pitch, the locker room, along with his own reply to Ethan. It was short, professional, and lethal. Not financially sound. Proceed with caution. Michael had sent that reply not just to Ethan, but to several other prominent investors in the city. Investors who trusted Michael's judgment. By the end of the week, word had spread. Ethan's ground floor opportunity was dead in the water. No bank would take his calls. No investor wanted a meeting. His name had quietly become synonymous with over-promising and under-delivering. And then came the call from Mom. She didn't bother with pleasantries. Do you know what you've done? Your brother's future is ruined. We had to take out a line of credit on the house to cover his debts. I kept my tone even. I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped protecting him from the consequences of his own choices. Silence. I could almost hear her swallow back whatever she wanted to say. Then her voice came back, softer but sharper. You've changed. Yes, I said. I have. And I hung up. Over the next month, I stayed distant. My consulting firm kept growing. I signed 2 new clients, moved into a downtown apartment with a skyline view I'd dreamed of since my freshman year. I stopped worrying about my bank account balance. I stopped checking the family group chat entirely. From mutual friends, I heard bits and pieces. Ethan was lashing out at people, blaming bad timing, the market, and of course me. But fewer and fewer people were buying his excuses. The golden boy shine was wearing off, and the cracks were visible to everyone. One afternoon, I was meeting a client for lunch when I saw him through the restaurant window. He slowed as he passed, noticed me, and kept walking. No smile, no wave, Just a man who'd finally realized the person he used to lean on was gone for good. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilt. This was one of those true stories you read about in best revenge stories lists, the kind where the person who was underestimated for years quietly builds the power to walk away. I'd learned the life lesson the hard way. When you stop letting people treat you like a safety net, you find out very quickly who's capable of standing on their own. It's strange how quiet freedom sounds. For so many years, my life had been filled with the constant noise of demands, obligations, and emotional manipulation. The phone calls that weren't really check-ins, the family dinners that were really just strategy sessions on how to use me for Ethan's benefit, the guilt trips dressed up as love. Now there was nothing. Weeks turned into months, and the distance between me and my family became more than just physical. It was mental, emotional, a clean break. They stopped trying to pull me back in. Maybe they realized I wasn't bluffing this time. Maybe they were too busy dealing with the wreckage of Ethan's failed business and the mountain of debt it left behind. Either way, the silence was exactly what I needed. My consulting firm was thriving. I'd expanded my client list, hired a part-time assistant, and even turned down projects that didn't fit my vision. That was a new kind of power, the ability to say no because I had options. Every time I signed a new contract or hit a financial milestone, I thought about how far I'd come since that graduation day they skipped. I had overcome more than just financial betrayal. I'd dismantled the role they'd assigned me since childhood, the quiet, dependable daughter who would always be there to clean up their messes. I wasn't her anymore. Looking back, I realized this was more than just a revenge story. It was an inspirational story about overcoming adversity and reclaiming my own narrative. My family betrayal had been the catalyst for change, but the real victory was in the life lessons I carried forward. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. Silence can be more powerful than shouting. Walking away isn't weakness sometimes, it's the only way to win. One evening, as I sat on my balcony watching the city lights, I thought about the girl I used to be, the one who waited for their approval, who believed that family meant unconditional support. I wanted to tell her, "You were enough all along. You just needed to stop standing in the shadows of people who never saw you." This was one of those true stories you hope someone out there hears when they need it most. Because somewhere, there's another Emily thinking they have to keep playing the role their family wrote for them. And maybe, if they hear this, they'll realize they can rewrite the script. I know I did. And I never looked back. When I look back now, I realize my story wasn't just about saying no to my family, it was about saying yes to myself for the first time. This was never just a family revenge story for the sake of payback. It was about breaking a cycle, about proving to myself that I could stand on my own without their approval or their control. I walked away from a lifetime of family betrayal and found something far more valuable than money: freedom, self-respect, and peace. I learned that sometimes the most powerful revenge story is simply living well without the people who underestimated you. The best revenge isn't loud or messy, it's quiet, steady, and undeniable. It's waking up every morning knowing you've built a life on your own terms. It's not about destroying someone else's world. It's about creating your own and making it so solid they can't touch it. So here's my question for you. What would you do if your family chose your sibling over you every time? And if you finally decided to cut ties, would you feel guilty or free?